Hello everyone, it's Anna, also known as Book Anna, and yes, my mic is still broken, so it is how it is. Anyway, today is time for another wrap-up video. I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read during March and April. I read 23 books in total, and I did some charts. I made some charts, so I'm going to put them on screen here so you can see. In the genre category, I read mostly literary fiction. 31% of the books were literary fiction books, 30% sci-fi, and then 13% fantasy classics and horror. I also read mostly physical books. In total, I read 14 physical books. I listened to 5 audiobooks and I read 7 books in ebook form, although some of those books I did listen to and also physically read, and some of the books I physically read and also read with an ebook. You can see down here on a chart my rating, how it went throughout the month from the first book that I read to the last book that I read. You can see that it started quite good. And it ended with a 5-star book, which is my second 5-star book in this year so far. That book would be Greta and Volden. Average rating all in all was 3.48, which I feel is quite a good average rating. You know, I'm not going to go any further into any kind of statistics. I'm going to now be talking about all the books individually, although I did talk about some of these books in my vlog videos, so if you want more in-depth reviews of those books, you can check out those 2 vlogs, March and April TBR tackle. I want to focus more on the books that I have not said anything about. Also, although I did read 23 books, 3 of those books were short stories, so let's say I read 20 books and 3 short stories. First book that I read is Penance by Eliza Clark. This book I gave 4.5 stars. This is the 3rd book that I read from Eliza Clark. I think that I can officially say that Eliza Clark is one of my favorite authors. This book was completely different than the previous 2 books. So this one is more thriller mystery with journalism aspect. I didn't expect it to be that kind of book. So this book follows a journalist who is trying to find out a bit more about this case that happened during the night that Brexit happened. Media outlets didn't really cover it because they were covering Brexit. So the case involves 4 girls, 3 of which unalived the 4th one by setting her on fire. We are following him as he interviews everybody in this girl's life, and as he looks through podcasts, like true crime podcasts about this case. I was very confused by this book because until the last page, I was certain that this was some kind of real case, that this really happened. As the way it was written, it was so realistic. Like all of those interviews, they were really well done. Podcast parts where when he describes the podcast, it was so interesting and it was so well written and I just loved it. I don't really tend to gravitate toward those kind of stories. Really, they don't really interest me a lot. I don't really like thrillers that much or mysteries. But this book I just really, really loved so much because her writing style was just so amazing and I just enjoyed it a lot, so I gave it 4.5 stars, yeah, and I would definitely recommend it. The next book that I read is a creation book. It's just a compilation of some essays from students. It's called Krize, katastrofe y 10 soneta. I did not like this book. I didn't enjoy it at all. I think it was written like 10 years ago, and you can really see it in the book because all the essays were focused on these autobiographies that some of our famous people put out, like some of the like creation famous people put out, and they were just I honestly thought it was so dumb. Ending poems, I remember I was reading them to my friends and to my boyfriend. I'm not like other girls energy, and I hated it. Yeah, I think I gave this book like 2 0.25 stars before trying, or 2 stars. I don't really remember. The next book that I read is Open Throat by Henry Hoke. This is quite a short book, actually. I listened to this book. Now I have it in physical form, but this one follows a queer mountain lion that lives on top of Hollywood Hill, like somewhere around Hollywood sign. He's just looking at people and thinking about what people are talking about, and then he kind of goes in the city and he starts to become more human-like. I thought this book was so interesting because his thoughts were so humane, and the way that he was just going around the things that he was looking at, he was looking with very human eyes and everything. And I think the concept was it's so random, like mountain lion in Hollywood, but I did really enjoy it. It's such a weird little novella, and I think it's so good. I really enjoyed this book a lot, and I do want to reread it now that I have physical book. So if audiobook interests me, then I know that physical book is going to be 10 times better than what I felt during listening to audiobook. I would recommend it to everybody who loves stories without any plot. Next book I read is Pizza Girl by Kyoung Frazier. This was a reread. I read this book like I believe 3 to 4 years ago, and I had to read it again because it was my in real life book club pick for March, and we talked about it and there were like mixed feelings. That means that this is a good book because we did have a few conversations, not just one. We were just constantly talking about it and we were constantly going back. This book is about this depressing teenager. She's 18. She works in a pizzeria and she becomes obsessed with this mother. This mother orders pizzas with pickles for her son. So she becomes obsessed with her and she is kind of looking at her and trying to connect her life with this woman's life, trying to understand all the similarities and how they're both so sad and so depressed, and she just wants to save her, and all of the things that she does with this woman and to this woman and everything that she talks about are kind of the things that she herself feels, and it's kind of just reflection of her inner self. This woman is just kind of reflection of what she is afraid of becoming or maybe wants to become. It's also talks about alcoholism and issues with that. So if that is a trigger to you, I would say maybe do not read this book. All in all, I feel like this book was quite a good character study, and I think that a book that makes people have so many different opinions is a good book. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Next book I also listened to, and that would be Countess by Suzan Palumbo. I gave it 2.75. I would even say that my rating would be even lower. I don't remember this book that well at all. I think I listened to it in a day. I'm trying to think about what I can say about this book, but this one is a retelling of Count of Monte Cristo. What I would say is it's not a book that I would not recommend because I do feel like some people would really like it and really enjoy it. I think that an audiobook that I listened to wasn't very well done. It was quite boring. It's just a retelling of Count of Monte Cristo that is sci-fi. Count of Monte Cristo is quite a long book, so putting that story in a novella, it will have its flaws and benefits. Benefit is that you're going to consume the story, not that detailed, but you are going to know what the story is about and you will not need a long time to go through the story. But the flaws of this is that the original Count of Monte Cristo story is so good and so immersive. I feel like if you do want to read Count of Monte Cristo, even though it's quite a long book and I am still reading it, I would recommend it before Countess. If you already read the original and you're trying to find some retelling, I don't think you're going to be happy with Countess. It just takes the main parts of the story and puts them together, but there is no detail. There's like, it's just a plot. Very rushed plot. I would recommend it if you're not reading this just because it's a retelling of Count of Monte Cristo. Then I would recommend it. If you're reading it just because of that, you're going to be disappointed. So yeah. The next book that I read is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I did enjoy the whole book. I thought it was very interesting. I did like our main character. I don't think she's unlikable at all. I thought that she was very cool. I really liked the way that it explored what it meant to be women in 50s and to be in STEM area, and how people didn't really look at you like you're smart. You're just like acknowledged as a woman who is not where she should be. The part that I did not like was the whole side plot of her child trying to figure out her dad's family, what happened. I didn't care for that part at all, and I thought the ending was very, very cheesy. I think that this book could be just the main plot of the book without any kind of side plot. At least not the side plot that the author chose to put in this book. So that's why I gave it 3.5. All the chapters that were about side plot, I didn't skim through them, but I would kind of like turn off my brain and just read through them, and then we would get to like main plot, and I was like, okay, great. This is what I like. The next book that I read is Frankenstein in Baghdad by Ahmed Wright Jonathan Saadawi. This one I also gave 3.5 stars. So this book is a Frankenstein retelling. With Countess, I had a problem because I just felt like I didn't really feel like it was completely retelling. I just felt like somebody gave me a synopsis of Count of Monte Cristo. And this one was taking a story and doing something different with it. You can see where it took things from Frankenstein, but the story itself was completely different. And I did give it 3.5 stars when I read it. I would maybe even put it to 3.75 or 4. Now, when it's been like more than a month since I read it, I do think about this book, and I do think it was a good book. We're following a lot of different characters, but they're all connected to the main plot of the book, in which we have this monster that is made from human parts, humans that were killed in tragic ways and with bombings around Baghdad. And we are following this monster who is avenging every piece of human that he's made of. I think that I was kind of bothered by in original Frankenstein was, this is a spoiler for original Frankenstein, but he lives in this little hut in the woods for, 2 years, and he's listening to these people talk. And then he just has this big vocabulary of words, and he knows everything, and it's my pet peeve. It was not explained, and I didn't like that. And here in this book, it was explained, because the way this Frankenstein monster became alive was because one of these human souls came into it. So, of course, he already knew how to talk, and it was explained, and I did like that part a lot. The problem that I had with this book was just, I think it was a bit repetitive. There are a lot of parts where we are witnessing something happening, and then in the next chapter somebody is telling us what happened that we already witnessed. I do think this book was good. I do recommend this book to people in my life. Now we have a book that I talked a lot about, and I'm not going to be talking about it again, because I'm going to just go over an hour discussion rant about this book, but it's Dracula. Check my vlog out if you have not. I did not like Dracula. I gave it 2.25 stars. I was very angry at it. I didn't like it. I thought it was badly written. I thought it was boring. I thought it was misogynist. I thought that all characters could just die and I would not care at all. Those are my thoughts on Dracula, and I'm still a bit upset about it, and I just don't want to talk about it because I'm going to just rant about it a lot. The next book that I read is Little Eyes by Samanta Schweblin. It's a short story collection, but also not, because all short stories are connected. Kentuckys are like little mechanic animal that have camera, and you can put them in your home, and then they're following you around, and what is different with them, through the camera, somebody is watching you from anywhere in the world. Somebody is watching you and you're just like taking care of them. And then we are following all the stories involving these Kentuckys, because some people have good experiences with them, some people have really bad experiences with them. Even though currently I don't think we have in a world anywhere anything near anything that is like a Kentucky. If it did happen, if one day Kentuckys were just put on market, I do think this book definitely wrote very realistic depiction of what would happen. The problem with Kentuckys is they became so popular so fast, so the government couldn't put any laws about how they can be used and who can use them or anything like that. So it's all very black market. I gave it 3.5 stars. Also, I just wanted to say one thing. When I give book more than 3 stars, I do think the book is good. It's just, like the books that I gave more than 4 stars are just the books that made me feel something for them. And the books that are like from 3 to 4 are the books that I think are good, but I just didn't feel anything special towards them. So then I read 3 short stories. I'm not going to go into any details of those because they're short stories. So the first one is The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin. This one is if the trolley problem was a short story. I think this is one of the best short stories I've ever read. I definitely have Ursula K. Le Guin's books on my TBR. I also gave it 4.75. Then Will the Sun Rise, Alabaster by Benjanun Sriduangkaew. This one I gave 3.5 stars. I thought this one was good. It reminded me of another book that I'm going to be talking about more in depth. It's about nuns. It's sci-fi, it's about nuns, it's about religion. The last short story is Questions Asked in the Belly of the World by A.T. Greenblatt. This one I gave 3.75 stars. This one it's also sci-fi short story, and it's about artistry, selfness, who you are, and what makes you you and what makes you worth in society. It's very interesting and I would recommend it, definitely. Then I read, also for my vlog, Harrow the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. I really like this book. I gave it 4.75. This is the second in Locked Tome series. I really do enjoy that series a lot. And I really like this one as well. I think the characters that Tamsyn Muir does and how they write them, it's so good. Writing style is perfect for me. It's like enough sarcasm and I just love it. I just love it so much. I do recommend this book to everybody as well. This series. Although I'm still waiting for 4th book to be announced. I'm not reading the 3rd book until 4th book is announced. Then I read Defect by Nino Cipri, which is the second, and I don't remember how the series is called, but the first book is Fina. This one I gave 3.25 stars. I like the first one a lot more. This one follows a character that was sick during happenings in the first book. So we are following him, and he works a night shift with all of his doppelgangers from other world. I don't remember this book that well. Honestly, I really don't remember it at all. I just remember that is the plot of the book. How it ends, what is happening in it, don't really remember, so it wasn't very memorable. The next book that I read is The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This one is also one that I talked about in my first vlog. I gave this book 3 stars. I thought it was a good book. Didn't really make me think a lot. Didn't really make me have any feelings towards it. I like the story, and I think the writing style was atrocious. I can see why, if people have this book on their school reading list, and if they have to read it for school, why they don't want to continue reading. They're adults. Because if you have to read this when you're in school, I'm sorry. This is not how books are usually written. This one was very, very hard to read. Definitely. I had to listen to it while reading it. Then I had another reread, and that would be Tender is the Flesh by Agostina Bastarrica. Upon the reread, I gave it 4 stars. It kind of surprised me. This is definitely still one of my most favorite books I've ever read. I feel like when I first read it, I was, I think, like 2nd year of high school. Back then, I definitely didn't really comprehend some things that this book was doing and saying. And now, when I thought about it a bit more upon reread, and when we had a talk because this was another book that I had to read for my book club, but for like April. This book was just not as I remember it. I still love this book a lot. I still think it's a great book. I still would recommend this book to a lot of people, but I can also see the other side of people not liking it. The things that we talked about in my book club were like that this book, some scenes didn't really make sense, didn't really do anything. They were kind of for shock. I talked about it a lot of times. I talked about what it is, so I'm not going to be talking about what it is again. It was a different experience for me than what it was when I firstly read it, which of course it is, but I'm interested in rereading it again in like 3 to 4 years time and see what I will get from it then. The next book that I read is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. This is a new release book. I gave it 3 stars. I listened to this book. It's a retelling of Carmilla. It's very funny to me that this book's description is like sapphic retelling of Carmilla, but Carmilla is already sapphic. So another retelling that was too close to the original story for me. I think that if you want Carmilla, read Carmilla. Carmilla is a great book. This book didn't really bring any nuance to conversation about Carmilla. It did have a little bit different characters. I still like Carmilla original story a lot more. I still think that that is one of the best vampire books I've ever read. This one definitely isn't. It was a bit too long. The audiobook didn't really help because I wasn't very immersed in the story. It was maybe a little bit too lovey-dovey for me. I liked Carmilla more. The romance part of it, it wasn't that on the nose. It was short but impactful. This one was a bit too long, not that impactful. And if you want to read this book, I would say maybe not to read audiobook because, yeah, audiobook was just not the way to consume this story for me, definitely. Then I read another book by Agostina Bastarrica, and that is the book that was translated this year, and it is The Unworthy. I like this book a lot, and honestly, I liked it more than Tender is the Flesh. It's a lot more mysterious. The world building is a lot more mysterious. In Tender is the Flesh, we kind of get everything served on a platter. We are told everything that happened. In this one, we are not. One of the books that doesn't really have a biggest plot. It's more of a character-centric book. We are told story from her perspective, and we are told in snippets what was happening, but we are still not completely sure everything that happened. It was that on the nose. It is about nuns that live in this convent serving this guy, of course. Every nun that shows any other religion, if they are wearing cross around their neck or if they are found with cross under their pillow or praying to God, they are going to be beaten. And this one is a book that I would definitely say, if you want to read it, read the trigger warnings. It has everything under the sun that could be triggering for people. These nuns are mutilating themselves for him. They do a lot of awful things to their body, and there are different rankings of these nuns. We are following one that is in the bottom. Well, not the most bottom, because the most bottom are servants, but she is in the bottom rankings of the unworthies. Every ranking up, as you're going towards him, there are more mutilations to the body. It's very hard to read, it's very weird, and this is the book that reminded me of the short story Then Will the Sun Rise, Alabaster. I feel like there are a lot of connections with those two. I liked it a lot. The next book that I read is Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut, and this one, I loved it so much. I really enjoyed this book a lot. Again, another book that I talked about in my vlog, so I'm not going to go in depth about it, but it's a sci-fi book. Part of it is happening during World War II, part of it is happening during this man's life. He's time traveling, and it's a classic. I loved it. I think it's amazing. I'm thinking about it. I am recommending it to everybody, so yeah. The next 3 books I also talked about in that vlog. Those are One Dark Window, Two Twisted Crowns, Six Crimson Cranes. So for the Shepherd King duology, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, I gave the duology, all in all, I would say 3 stars. First book I gave 3.25, the second book 3.5 or something like that. I liked the second book more. Didn't really like that this book was very plot heavy. I don't think that the characters were developed as much as they could have been. The first book, I didn't really care for the love story in the first book, for the romance. In the second book, I cared for it a lot more. It was lacking in character development for me, definitely. And magic system was, I think it was kind of plot holy, but it's not genre of books that I usually like, so giving 3 stars to these kind of books for me is quite a lot, because it's not a genre that I usually read or a genre that I usually like. So I would say they're good. I think that people that do like this genre definitely would love these books. Then we have Six Crimson Cranes, which I'm not going to be finishing this series. This is another Elizabeth Lynn book that I read and I thought was just fine. I don't see myself ever picking up the second part, or sadly picking up anything else by Elizabeth Lynn. I just don't think she's an author for me. That her books are lacking in descriptions. They're very plot heavy. A lot of things are happening really fast. It's just not for me, so I gave this book 2.5 stars, I think. And the last book that I read in April is Greta and Volden by Rebecca K. Rayleigh. I absolutely adored this book. This is a 5-star book for me. Definitely a 5-star. This is the second book that I gave 5 stars to in this year. As you can see, I don't give 5 stars lightly. And this one is also literary fiction, as was the first 5-star. I loved it. I thought it was so wholesome. And it was funny at the moments, it was sad at the moments. I remember there was one part which I was reading and I closed the book and I started giggling, which I really don't do. I don't really usually giggle while reading books. It's not a romance book, but it does have a romance plot. It was just so nice and so wholesome, and this book follows these brother and sister, Greta and Volden. They're like people in their 20s. They have this weird family because their dad is from Russia, their mom is Maori. They live in New Zealand. He's a scientist, but then he stopped being a physicist and he became this show host, and now he's traveling around and talking to people. And she is still studying, I believe, Russian literature. She's still like working in college, and her dad is professor in scientific area. It's very family dynamic book. It's very family centric, and I loved the family. They had their problems, of course, but there wasn't a part of the book that I felt was too much. I just feel like all the problems that they were going through were so realistic and so well done. I think I can see very clearly that the author took from her own life, because author is from New Zealand. Sadly, she still doesn't have any new books. I would love for her to write another book because I really loved this one and I liked her writing style. It was again a bit sarcastic, and I felt a lot of things towards this book. I remember just like when I was reading They're Going to Love You, when it was like somewhere around the end of the book, I didn't want to finish it. I just wanted to keep reading it because it was just so amazing and so wholesome, and it's gay. It's a very, very gay book, very queer. Almost everybody in this book is gay, which I also just loved. I just love this book so much, and I just had this feeling that I would love this book. And when I started reading it, I think like in the first 50 pages, I was like, this is a 5-star book. This is a 5-star book. And it's definitely going on my favorites of all time. I love this book so much. I want to reread it. I want to read it and reread it, and just like reading this book and They're Going to Love You on loop, because I love both books so much. So I think all in all, I started with a bang. I started with a 4.5 and I ended with a 5-star. I think it was a good reading month for me. Well, 2 months for me. There were like a lot of books that I enjoyed. There were a lot of books that I thought were just meh. I didn't really care for them, but that's okay. There weren't a lot of books that I hated deeply. Just one book that I deeply hated, and I also gave that book a 2-star, so yeah. Thank you guys for watching this video. I will talk to you in my next video. Okay, bye!